Good afternoon and welcome to today's HydroCAD webinar. My name is Peter Smart. I'm the developer of HydroCAD and I'll be your presenter this afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about HydroCAD installation and network operation. This covers a range of topics, often things you're only going to need once or twice, but there's still a lot of interesting capabilities here, particularly for the IT and network administration people in larger offices. We will be recording this session and it will be posted online, so you can point other people to this link later on so they can review the information when it happens to be of interest to them. Roughly what we're going to cover today is, first of all, HydroCAD-10 installation, and this is going to be dealing specifically with HydroCAD-10. There have been some changes since HydroCAD-9 in the way some of this operates, so this session has been updated to reflect those changes. We're going to be talking also about the HydroCAD license system and exactly how it's set up, how HydroCAD is licensed, and how you can install and configure your system to use those licenses and to share those licenses over a local network. We'll also be talking about data storage in HydroCAD, how your project files are stored and how they can be shared amongst multiple computers, and also the sharing of other data files such as rainfall files and other information that may be used across multiple projects or multiple users. And we'll also talk a little bit about working with HydroCAD updates, installing an update, and also moving HydroCAD to a new PC, a number of different maintenance tasks. So that's a general overview of what we'll be covering. First of all, just to talk a little bit about HydroCAD system requirements. HydroCAD will run on virtually any computer that is running Windows. So if you can run Microsoft Windows on it, then the additional requirements for HydroCAD are very minimal. The basic installation takes about 10 to 20 megs depending on the options, and the additional data files you may use are fairly modest. We do have a detailed page on Windows compatibility, which is posted online, and this discusses features of the different versions and exactly how they've been adapted up through the latest support for Windows 7. So there have been some changes, although some earlier versions can be run on Vista and Windows 7 with certain limitations. We have made some changes to fine-tune the behavior specifically for those environments. We're still proud of the fact that HydroCAD uses a single installation program across all platforms, so from Windows 98 onward to Windows 7 and even future releases, hopefully, the one setup program is all you will need. HydroCAD is a 32-bit application, but it is fully compatible with 64-bit systems, and so again you'll use the same setup program regardless of the platform that you're actually installing HydroCAD on. So you can find those details on our website if you go to HydroCAD.net and click on Support in Section B, I believe, on Startup and Installation Issues. You'll find this and other documents that we'll be talking about today. So as far as the HydroCAD installation itself, the basic information that you need in order to install HydroCAD is printed on your license certificate. Every HydroCAD-10 system that we sell, whether it be a new sale, a new license, or an update, will receive a printed HydroCAD license certificate. These are sent by first-class mail, either on their own, or they may accompany the printed manual or CD if you choose to purchase those. The manual and CD are now separate options. Not all users want those materials, and so they're now offered and sold separately. But everyone will get the license certificate. The license certificate includes, most critically, your download information. And this information will remain the same for the life of this particular HydroCAD version, HydroCAD-10 in this case. When you update to a new major release, such as going from 9 to 10 or 10 to 11, then there will be a new license certificate issued, and each new major update will include a new serial number. So that's the key information that you're going to need to install HydroCAD. We recommend that you do install from the download because that will be assured of always getting you the very latest build of HydroCAD that is available for that version. New builds are issued periodically. It has been every couple of months, typically over the last 6 months since the HydroCAD-10 introduction. And the new builds are issued to do things such as add new chamber definitions, or other fairly minor maintenance changes to the software. These are essentially service packs. That's another way to view them. And so we do urge you to make sure you're using the latest one. You'll always get the latest one using the very same download information you started with. So all you need to do is go back to that download page, download the software, and install it right over your current installation. Now, for a brand new installation, which is what we want to talk about today, you will download from that location. And when you do, you will get a setup file. And the setup file is just a simple executable. And if we run the setup file, and you can store the setup program anywhere you choose, that's completely up to you, but you run the setup file and the setup program launches. Now, for most purposes, you can simply do a standard installation here. There are some other options here to select the individual components, but frankly, the different components are not large, and so we really recommend that you do a standard installation for most purposes. You're asked to approve the license agreement, and when you do, it progresses to do the complete installation. When the primary installation is done, it also checks to see what AutoCAD installations are on your system, and it will offer a list of those installations by release. Here we see release 17 and release 18, so you can select the particular AutoCAD installation that you want to use with HydroCAD import capability. This is purely optional. This is only if you wish to use the automated watershed extraction capabilities that have been added in HydroCAD-10. Otherwise, HydroCAD remains a standalone program, and it does not need AutoCAD in order to run. So don't be concerned if you're installing on a system that does not have AutoCAD on it. Everything will still work just fine with the sole exception. This list will show you the recognized versions of AutoCAD that are on your system. When we add support for AutoCAD 2013, if you happen to have 2013 installed on your system, then you will see that also appearing on this list. And that, again, is the kind of thing that will be added in an upcoming build where we expect to add 2013 support. So we would just click OK for the particular AutoCAD version that we want to register, and then OK again to complete the entire installation. And with that, the HydroCAD installation is done. To launch HydroCAD, we can go to the Start menu. We can go to Start, Programs, HydroCAD, and there's a whole bunch of different shortcuts that have been installed here. There's a lot of useful stuff available here on the menu. The primary item you will use is simply the HydroCAD shortcut to launch the program. But there are other shortcuts available as well with information, particularly about rainfall files, which is particularly useful, rainfall and IDF information. There's also an uninstall item here, and we'll talk more about that later on. So you can use the shortcut here to start HydroCAD, or you can use the shortcut that is created on the HydroCAD desktop, any way you wish to do it. So if we go ahead and actually launch HydroCAD, then what it's going to do is come up to a serial number screen where we'll enter our serial number information, our license information for this HydroCAD setup. If we already had HydroCAD or a previous version installed on this screen, then it would automatically go to the previous list. But on a brand new installation, we get a blank screen here. So what we need to do is type in the serial number. And again, this serial number you will find on your HydroCAD license certificate. So you want to keep that certificate handy. Your serial number is shown right here on the certificate. So make sure you hold on to that. You will need that if you install HydroCAD on a new machine that does not have the serial number present. So what we're going to do here is put in a serial number. And then when we click the OK button, which is what you would normally do for a standard standalone installation, then HydroCAD will launch. And at the top of the screen, various important information is displayed. Here is the basic serial number. So if you have any questions, tech support questions about the system, you can just give us that serial number, and that will uniquely identify the system. The title bar also tells us the number of nodes, that this is a 40-node system, and of course that this is HydroCAD version 10. So that's your critical system identification, is right up there in the title bar where it's easy to find. You can also go to Help About, and that will give you a little bit of additional detail. Here you can find the version number and also the specific build that you're running. So in this case, we happen to be running build 5. So you can check your screen in order to see the exact build that's installed on your system. Now, in this instance, what we've done is we've set up one single license installed locally. So if you're just installing HydroCAD on one PC, you're not sharing the license, then this is all you need to do, and you're good to go. There are some additional setup options that are available. For example, there's a silent installation option, so that admin or IT could set up a script or a batch file of some kind to do a silent installation. And you'll find these options described in the installation document. Again, go to HydroCAD.net and click on Support. And there's a silent install here together with a number of other specific capabilities that are available to you to help you build a script. We do recommend that you use the standard installation program whenever you install HydroCAD. Although it is also possible to use images and other means of deployment, that's up to you. Those are not things that we really have any detailed information on and cannot specifically support. But the standard installation program is very straightforward, as you've just seen. It creates the necessary files and registry settings to launch HydroCAD. If you are installing on a shared environment, this is really the next step, and you want to share your license information between multiple PCs. The first thing you need to understand is that the HydroCAD licensing works by providing a single simultaneous use at a designated location for each serial number you purchase. So if you purchase 2 licenses, for example, then you can install on multiple computers at a specific site, and any 2 people at a time can then use HydroCAD by sharing those serial numbers. So how do we set up that shared mechanism? Well, we would launch HydroCAD as we have just done here and go back to the settings serial number screen. You can go there at any time, and here's the serial number that we've entered. Now, at the bottom of this screen, it shows you where the license information is currently stored. This line right down here. So here in application data for HydroCAD, this is where the HydroCAD license data has been created. So when we enter the serial number, HydroCAD automatically is creating files in this location. You never need to manage those files manually. HydroCAD handles that for you in the background. It's all done automatically. If we want to share the folder, we can't use this particular location because that's specific to this individual PC. So what we would do is we would click the Network button. When we click Network, we're given a box that lets us select a location to share the license information. So we could either type in a different path here, or we could click the Browse button and we could pick another location. So I might select, for example, another file sitting somewhere on our network and click the OK button. And now when we click OK once more, our license information will be moved to that particular network file or folder. And this would allow multiple HydroCAD installations at this site to all point to the same folder. So then whenever a HydroCAD installation was launched, it would go to that folder looking for license information. We could have just one serial number in the pool, or we could have multiple serial numbers in the pool. If we put in a second one, for example, and click OK, now you'll notice up on our title bar it shows user 1 of 2. So it indicates that we have 2 licenses that have been set up in the pool on this system. Now, how is the license sharing actually working? Let me just give you a little bit of behind-the-scenes look at what's going on. If we come back and look at the folder where our license information is stored, HydroCAD has automatically created a couple of files in this folder. And the primary one is this HydroCAD.HCL file, or HydroCAD license file. And if we were to open that file, it is just a text file, so you can open it in Notepad. What you will see is a series of encrypted strings. All of the license information is encrypted, and it uses an encryption key derived from your hardware. So it's actually encrypted to the specific drive on which the file is stored. The reason for this is to secure the file so that if someone were to try to misappropriate your license file, grab it and copy it over to another drive, it won't work, very simply. The license file will only work when it's created by HydroCAD. So copying the license files around by hand won't help you. If you put the file in a given folder and point HydroCAD to it, you will simply see an empty serial number list. So there's really no manual maintenance you need to do in here. You could make a backup copy of this file. If you're going to bring it back to the exact same drive, that would work fine. But if it's used on a different drive or by a different computer, then you'll find that the file doesn't function. So that's the primary file created by HydroCAD. You will also notice a couple of other files with Hydro and a number. And these are the individual user count files. So each time someone starts up HydroCAD, it goes and checks the number of licenses that you have available, and then it grabs a user count. In this case, we're the only user running, so it grabs the first count, creating this hydro1.hcl file. These are temporary files. You can go ahead and delete these hydro123 files at will, and they will just be recreated when HydroCAD launches. And so that is the basic license sharing mechanism. It's really very simple to set up. When you install HydroCAD on additional computers and start them, they will automatically go to the settings serial number screen. And the only thing you will need to do is click Network and select the same folder that you designated on the previous computer. And when you do that, it will automatically find those serial numbers and HydroCAD will launch. So it's a very straightforward process. If you want to automate that process, then the installation document that I referred to a couple of minutes ago gives you details on the registry setting that you can use in order to pre-configure each user so that their HydroCAD installation is already pointed to this designated location. So with 2 steps, you can automate the installation on any one PC. So it makes it very easy to do the deployment on multiple PCs. You can just do a silent install and then poke in the one registry setting to where the shared license information is located, and then each user is able to launch and go automatically. Now, when you are sharing your license information, I do recommend that you put a password protection on your license information. This makes it impossible for other people to come in and tinker with the license details. So now, if this user is to go into the settings serial number screen, they can't get into the screen unless they type that admin password. If you happen to forget your password, then the only way to resolve that is actually to go in and delete the HydroCAD license folder, the HydroCAD.HCL file. That will clear out your list completely, including the password, and you will then need to re-enter your serial numbers. You won't have to do that on multiple computers, just do it once, and it will put the license information back in the shared folder. We don't have that password. That is a password that you assign solely. You're in complete control over it. Again, if you lose that, then just delete your license folder and re-enter the serial numbers. Another option that's available on this screen, which was added in HydroCAD-10, is to log HydroCAD usage to a file. And this is very helpful in shared installations because it gives you some usage tracking of the number of times HydroCAD has been used, the people who are using it, and the number of simultaneous uses that you're actually experiencing on your network. When you have that option selected, HydroCAD will automatically create a log file whenever it runs. And the log file is stored in the same application data folder. So if we come back here and OK this box, and what we actually need to do is we need to leave HydroCAD, and then let's come back in, and we can exit once more, And as we do that, each entry and exit is being recorded to this log file. This is a basic text file, so you can open this in Notepad, which is what we see here, or you could change the extension to a CSV file and open that. In most systems, that will automatically launch your spreadsheet, such as Excel shown here, and you get a better look of the information now in nice labeled columns. So here we have the action, software log in, log out, the date and time that it occurred. At the log out, we get the total elapsed time for that session. And here's the time in decimal hours, so easier to calculate from if you want to do totals for each user. The computer name that was logged in, the username for that session, and then the version of HydroCAD, the user count that they obtained. So this was the first user, they got count number 1, and the total number of licenses that were available. So very simple log file, but it gives you complete information on what's going on with the HydroCAD usage. In order to get that file, all you need to do is go into the Settings Serial Number screen and make sure you have selected Log HydroCAD Usage to a file. Other options on this screen that you might want to know about: report any skipped serial numbers. This is a new option that was added in HydroCAD-10. Normally this is selected, and it will cause HydroCAD to give you a warning message if there are any invalid numbers in this box. The reason we've added this option is that if you wanted to have a mixed setup between some HydroCAD-9 and 10 installations, you would need to enter both the HydroCAD-9 and 10 serial numbers in this box. And HydroCAD-10 would complain about the HydroCAD numbers not being valid each time. You'd get a warning message. It would still run using the HydroCAD-10 number, but you'd get that little nag message about the old serial number. Unchecking this box causes it to skip that message. So as long as it finds a valid serial number somewhere in the list, this will let it run without complaining about the other numbers. So it's just an option that was added if in some instances you want to do a gradual migration from version 9 to version 10. You can suppress the nag messages on the version 10 startups. The version 9 startups are still going to complain about those messages because they did not have that feature yet. But it will help you a little bit if you want to keep a 1 or 2 version 9 systems still around with their serial numbers installed. Again, keep in mind the license agreement provides for just one simultaneous use for each serial number you have on the system. So if you have a total of 3 licenses, even though they may be on different versions, that's still just 3 simultaneous users that are authorized at that location. So that's a basic rundown of the options that are available in the serial number box. The Help button, as always, will give you very detailed information on all of the different parameters and options. So please make use of it. It's great context-sensitive help, and it will take you in and give you additional detail. For example, if we follow the link here for password, it even tells you exactly how to reset your password if you should lose it. So all of that information is in the help system. That's our first resource whenever we receive tech support calls here, so I'd urge you to use that yourself. Okay. Another general topic on sharing information and network installations. So far we've basically just looked at the program and the license sharing itself. There are the other categories of data that get stored, and the principal one of those are the HydroCAD project files. And these have an HCP extension, a HydroCAD project. And by default, there are a number of sample projects that are installed automatically with your HydroCAD installation. And these are placed normally in your shared projects file. So the default on my particular system is that these are stored in Documents and Settings, All Users, Documents, HydroCAD Projects. You can also get there typically by going to My Computer, Shared Documents, All Users. That will also take you there. It varies depending on the specific version of Windows you're running, but it is the All Users Documents folder is what we're looking for. And within that you'll find HydroCAD and Projects. And within this we have, in this case, a large number of project files that have been created. This includes sample project files that are automatically installed with HydroCAD. So this is where you'll find Mountain View Housing Complex, for example, which is one of the projects that's used in the built-in HydroCAD tutorial. But you'll also find any other projects that you've created and that have been stored in the default location. Now, you can store HydroCAD projects anywhere you choose. They do not have to be in this specific folder. And you can launch the individual file just by clicking on that file. So there's no special configuration needed to store projects in a different location, such as on a network shared folder. You can simply designate a folder and put your HydroCAD projects there and open them from that folder. And no special configuration is needed on the HydroCAD side. If you lose track of where your project files are, then you can use a Windows search capability, and you can do a search for files and folders, and you could search for everything with an HCP extension, and this would find all of the project files on the designated drives that you've selected. So this is a great way to find a project file that has disappeared. Maybe you think it was deleted accidentally. It's likely that it's just in a different folder. So this will find them all for you. So it's pretty easy working with the actual HydroCAD project files. There's no special configuration needed. The next group of information we need to think about in terms of sharing data are additional tables such as rainfall tables. These are part of a whole set of data files that HydroCAD uses to do the calculations. There are rainfall files, IDF files, chamber definitions, pipe size lookup tables. There's a whole bunch of other data files which are used by HydroCAD. And these files are typically installed in your standard HydroCAD installation. So if we were to look at a HydroCAD installation folder, this is the default location where HydroCAD is stored here in Program Files, HydroCAD. And within this folder, there's a bunch of specific HydroCAD files. There's also subfolders. So there's a subfolder here that contains our rainfall information. There's one for our IDF files. There's one for chambers. There's even a folder with some sample pump rating curves and special outlet rating curves. Those are not used as often. Primarily, it's going to be the rainfall and IDF files that you may have to deal with. If you're creating local rainfall definitions, then you have a couple of options as to where you store those files. Keep in mind that this doesn't apply just to creating rainfall events. If you just set up event definitions within a project, those are solely contained within the project and there's nothing special you have to do. But if you're creating a custom rainfall distribution, perhaps downloading NOAA data and creating a synthetic mass curve from that, then you would need to decide where to store that. Your first location would actually be to put those files in the same file as the HydroCAD project folder that's going to use them. That's the first place HydroCAD will always go when it looks for rainfall files or chamber definitions. If it doesn't find a referenced file within the local folder, then it will come back to one of these master files. So it may come back here to the master rainfall folder, which is where all of the standard rainfalls are installed. And for example, here's the standard type 2 24-hour rainfall distribution that's used in many HydroCAD projects. In HydroCAD-10, we no longer require write access to any of the files or folders under Program Files, HydroCAD. This means that these folders can be completely secured, as some people are doing in secured network environments. So this means the user can no longer copy files into these folders. To get around that, you can place most of these files into the project folder, which by definition has to be write accessible. So you do have that option. This folder can now be completely secured. Now, if we want to share these files between projects that are in different folders, then we need to think a little bit further. We could put a separate copy of a custom rainfall in each project folder, but then of course we'd be replicating the file. In some cases that may be fine, but of course it raises the potential problem of having to maintain two separate copies of the file. You might change the file in one place and forget to change it in the other. So if you would prefer to have one master copy of that file to be used by projects in different locations, then we have a capability for a shared network installation. This is quite different than the license sharing we've just looked at. It's easy to confuse the two, but they're very distinct. And what we would do here, rather than going to settings serial number, we come down one more box to settings network. Settings network lets us specify a location for a shared HydroCAD installation. The purpose of this would be to install all of the standard lookup files in a common location. We still have a local installation of HydroCAD. That's always required. But by setting this up, we're specifying that this HydroCAD installation will go to this network location to grab these lookup files. And we would then need to install HydroCAD on that specific location. That's actually the first step. So this is the only scenario in which you would actually install HydroCAD on your network file server. In all other cases, you continue to install HydroCAD only on the local machine. But if you install it on the server, then a full set of files are available there, and we can select that specific folder to be used for the lookup files. And HydroCAD will ensure that, in fact, HydroCAD is present in that location. It has to be the same version of HydroCAD installed in that network location. Once we do this, then whenever we need a rainfall file, that's where HydroCAD will go. So now we can take multiple PCs, we can point them all to that same shared installation, and we can place our custom rainfall files in that folder. And that folder will now contain custom information that needs to be shared across multiple projects. We can reset this to use the local folders at any time just with the reset folder button, and that just clears out the network location that we might have preset. This is not used very often. If you can place your custom rainfall files simply in the same folder as the projects, then that's the easier solution. But this is available to you if you want to do more complete sharing of lookup files between installations. And again, the help button is your friend here. It will give you very detailed information on this screen and all of the options and exactly how they operate. This even gives you a detailed list of which of the data files, the lookup files, are affected by this, the files for which it will now go to the network location. So have a close look at this before you set it up. I think it will answer most of your questions. Okay. Those are the basic issues for sharing different kinds of data amongst HydroCAD installations. The next item I want to touch on are various command line options. Although normally you are simply launching HydroCAD from the Start menu or the desktop, or perhaps you are just clicking on a project file. All of those things work just fine. But there are also a number of command line options that are available to you. And again, we have a separate web page that specifically discusses these. And this will let you do things such as set up a batch file or a shortcut in order to launch a project file. You can also use special command line switches to do things like merge files, add data from one file to another, or do automated import and export. There's a lot of different options available to you that are all documented in this page. Some of these are used for the automated import and merge capability that we have established with Carlson Hydrology. This is actually the mechanism that's used to bring that data into a HydroCAD project. But you can also use it for other purposes. It allows you to automate your own information and data flow, essentially between HydroCAD and other data sources. So have a look at these command line switches. They're relatively easy to use, although they're not used that often. In most applications, you can just do the data directly through the HydroCAD menus. But this gives you the capability to automate procedures that you may want to use more often. The next category I want to talk about very briefly are registry settings in HydroCAD. These are really quite straightforward, but just to touch on them briefly, if we do run and regedit, go to the registry editor, there are really just two locations in which HydroCAD registry settings are stored. The first is in the local machine, software, and HydroCAD. There are just a couple of settings which are created by the installation program. And these are simply to indicate where the HydroCAD program itself has been installed. So that's where HydroCAD is located. Also, the default directory for projects. So this is the All Users Documents folder. And then finally, the Application Data folder, which is where your license information is stored by default. So those are the global settings that are created by the setup program. If you install HydroCAD to different locations, or those folders have different designations on your computer, then these settings will automatically reflect that. Most of the settings that are relevant to HydroCAD are actually stored on a per user basis. So rather than going into local machine, if we go to current user, software, HydroCAD, now we get a larger set of registry keys, which is where HydroCAD stores all of the user-specific information. Most of these are actually in the settings folder, and there's a whole bunch of things in here. For example, this is where HydroCAD stores the company name, which is used on each of the page headings of your reports. You can enter that directly in HydroCAD. You do not need to come into the registry to make any of these changes. This is just to let you know if IT people want to know where's HydroCAD storing all of this stuff, this is where it's stored. You could presumably copy this registry branch over to a different computer if you wanted to preserve all of a user's settings when they move from one computer to another. But that's rarely necessary because these are built automatically on the fly, and it's quite easy to make these few customizations on a new PC right in HydroCAD rather than going to the registry. But this is where they are if you do want to get involved in tinkering at the registry level. Of course, use at your own risk. It's very easy to mess up your computer by making the wrong registry changes. So this is not something we encourage you to do. This is really just for experienced people if you really need these capabilities. One last category of topics to touch on, and then we're all done for this topic. I want to talk a little bit about updates in HydroCAD. First of all, to find out about any updates, right within HydroCAD, do help check for update. And this will bring you to a status page pertaining to your specific version of HydroCAD. And this will tell you if there's a newer version of HydroCAD available or a newer build of HydroCAD. So this is always the page to go to find that information. This page also includes any software status bulletins that may have been posted for your release. So if there have been any issues or problems with the release, then this link will tell you exactly what those are and how to deal with them. For example, there were some changes to the NOAA file format that necessitated a change in HydroCAD. And so we have a status bulletin indicating that issue and describing exactly how it was addressed and where it was corrected. So the new builds are released in order to deal with those kinds of issues. So this is the place to go to find out what's the latest release. Just help check for update. Now, if there is an update, if there is a new build that's been released for your version of HydroCAD, then what you simply want to do is go back to your HydroCAD license certificate and get the download address from that sheet. You will not find this download information posted online. This is private download information that's provided to each user on the license certificate. So keep that license certificate. You will need it. Don't go hunting around on the website. You're not going to find the information there. And tech support does not immediately have that information available either. Again, it's individual information. If you happen to lose your license certificate, then you will need to place an order to have your license reissued. And that will allow us to verify that the information is being disclosed to the right parties, and we'll give you a new license certificate containing your serial number and the download information. So save that license certificate. It's like a Windows certificate of authenticity. It's not something that can be replaced at a drop of a hat. You need to keep hold of that. Anyone with that certificate basically has all the information they need to download, install, and run this particular HydroCAD license. So it's valuable. Please treat it accordingly. When you do download a new version of HydroCAD, a new update, a new build, whatever that might be, then you can simply install that right on top of your previous HydroCAD installation. You do not need to do a reinstall. You can just run the setup program It behaves much as the initial installation did, and it will go ahead and it will update whatever files have been changed in that new build. It is very, very rare that you need to do an uninstall in HydroCAD. You do not need to uninstall before putting in an update. Just put the update in right over the previous installation. One of the few cases you might uninstall is if you were moving HydroCAD to a new computer. And in that instance, all you need to do is do an uninstall from the original computer. And again, you can go to Start, Programs, HydroCAD, Uninstall. Or you can go to Add Remove Programs in Windows. You'll find the uninstall option there as well. They both do exactly the same thing. And then after you've uninstalled HydroCAD, you can simply go to your new computer and do a standard installation and set up your serial number exactly as we've discussed today. So that's a quick look at a whole range of administrative issues pertaining to the installation and network operation of HydroCAD. If you've got any other questions, please always feel free to send those to support@hydrocad.net, and we'll be glad to get back to you. And you'll find the specific documents that we've covered here today on our support page. So if you go to www.hydrocad.net and click on support, you'll find documents on all of these startup, licensing, and installation issues. So thank you very much for joining us today, and again, we'll have a copy of this session, a recording, posted on our website so that you or others will be able to view this at a later time. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope we'll see you at a later session. Thank you. Have a great day.